Good evening, and thank you for joining us for tonight's meeting to discuss the proposed design for Skyline High School. Buenas noches y gracias por participar en esta reunión para discutir para discutir la propuesta de un nuevo diseño para la expansión de la preparatoria Skyline. En unos momentos vamos a empezar entre la interpretación en español. Si desea escuchar esta presentación en español, pueden seleccionar la opción en español en la parte derecha inferior de la pantalla, en el icono del mundo. Si por algún motivo no escucha al intérprete, regrese al inglés y vuelva a intentar la opción en español. Si aún no funciona, por favor avísenos por el Q&A. Desafortunadamente, perdón por el chat. Desafortunadamente, la opción de interpretación no es compatible con las computadoras Chromebook. Le recomendamos que intente entrar a la reunión utilizando un teléfono celular, iPhone o Android, una computadora PC, un iPad, un tablet para escuchar o un tablet para escuchar la reunión en español. Thank you again for joining us tonight. We will answer your questions following the presentation. If you have a question, please raise your hand using the icon of the raised hand at the bottom of your screen. We will call your name so you can unmute. If you prefer, you can also write your questions in the chat and we'll read them and get you an answer. And for now, it is my pleasure to introduce Principal Angela West. And before I do, though, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself so we can avoid background noise. That would be super helpful. Thank you. And now, Ms. West, if you would like to say a few words.
Wow, I just gave a whole introduction and I was muted. Well, good evening, everyone. I just want to thank everyone for being here. Just thank you for your time, your commitment, and for supporting Skyline. So I just couldn't imagine you all not being here. You were selected for, a reason, and I'm glad that you're here. And we'll watch the presentation and address any questions that you have at the end. So thank you. And I just want to say thank you to our bond team for getting this presentation together.
I appreciate you. And now if Chief Brent Alfred can say a few words about this project, and then we will look at the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Coleman. I'll keep it short because I know I'm the only thing between you guys and the presentation. So as Ms. Mayor Coleman said, I'm Brent Alfred. I'm the Chief Construction Officer with Dallas ISD. I have oversight over the entire $3.5 billion bond program. And it's an honor to be presenting this to the Skyline community tonight. I've heard so much about this school and appreciate you guys' history. I think you're going to be excited about what we're doing in the 2020 bond program for Skyline. And without further ado, I'd like to just turn it over to Mr. Brent Klein with Klein Harden Architects to take us through the presentation.
Thank you, Brent. I'm happy to be part of this presentation tonight. We're going to roll through several different items that we're proposing on the project. The original scope of the project, this is the project summary. The original scope was some security upgrades, exterior lighting, aviation door replacement, and some pretty good renovations to the auxiliary gyms. And then since then, we've talked about adding additional scope of an athletic wing added on to the competition gym, and a performing arts wing added on to the existing auditorium and band hall. And both of these, by the way, if you see the word storm shelter, would include a storm shelter. Skyline's unique in that as large as it is, we need 2 storm shelters to make sure that the proper distance per code allows you to get to the storm shelter within 1,000 linear feet to get to a storm shelter. Corridor renovations and some security entry renovations are part of the scope. And then we're going to talk about HVAC scope. There's 84 air handlers and VAV boxes that are scheduled to be replaced. And then finally, we'll go into a couple of alternate scopes This is just to help us fill out the use of the funds and some things that really need to get done. So with that in mind, here is a diagram of the campus. Competition gym out here is D2. Main auditoriums down here is MB3 and MB4. You'll see A1 security infrastructure upgrades. They're indicated by these little red diamonds. These would be new card readers and access control points so that we have better control of all the doors and the door hardware that goes along with those to secure that portion of the building. Exterior lights, you can see the ones on the building and the ones out around the building. So and probably a few extras added in. Replace the aviation door, the big door in A1 where the airplane mechanics are located has needed to be replaced for some time now. And then these last group is replace the wood floors in the auxiliary gyms, replace the HVAC units, and then overhaul the locker room areas in this area. And then the additional scope that has been added to the package is a package. We label these as package 1 and package 2 just for us to understand what we're talking about. But package 1 is an athletic field house and storm shelter to be added to the competition gym. This is also including some work on the existing weight room. We'll move the weight room over to, we'll show you that in a little bit, but moving the weight room around so we can get baseball and softball closer to the fields and everybody located where they need to be. So it's going to be a little bit of moving some programs from D1 to the new building. And then, as you probably all realize, over here in the end of A2, there's quite a bit of athletics in that area. We'll move all of that over here in the new field house and then convert that area to classrooms. And that'll actually allow us to get about 10 new classrooms in that end of the building and a new restroom over there in that end of the building so that that end of the building functions and it gives us a little bit more capacity to the campus. And then performing arts is down here next to the auditorium. We'll take out, part of the band hall gets moved over to a new band hall and a new choir room. And then we're going to convert these existing band and choir room spaces into theater arts scene shops and costume shops so that they're right across the hallway from the theater itself. And the real critical piece here, the theatrical rigging inside of the auditorium needs to be replaced, and so that would be replaced. This shot just kind of shows you all of that in relationship to the site so you can get acclimated. And zooming in here a little bit, more detail. Football, softball, wrestling, training, and other field sports will come in here. New weight room, new larger weight room in this space to be part of, actually that weight room would be part of the storm shelter itself. So, and then completely gut the insides of the existing locker rooms over here and completely put them back into place with the sports that are needed. We're looking forward to meeting the athletic department here soon so we can talk about a little bit more detail about these spaces. And then once again, these 10 new classrooms over here with a restroom in the center of it. There's a corridor that goes right down through the center of this. It separates this space from early college, and it'll let early college function a little more autonomously while these classrooms can have access to their own space over here. And there's kind of a brief layout. It's not probably exactly how it will actually end up, but it's a somewhat of a layout of what could happen or what spaces could go where. New training space, weight room, wrestling, cheer. Anyway, performing arts. Over here, we're talking about adding almost 13,000 square feet to the building, and you can see we're going to connect the existing building here that's in the light blue to building B. So we're going to create a little courtyard back in this space, and the dash red line indicates where the storm shelter would go inside. So it's mostly storm shelter, and these are the theatrical rigging over here. And this light blue indicates that we may move some of these offices that are here over so that we can get parts of the scene shop and storage over here behind, directly off the back of the stage. But you can see we're talking about band and orchestra, choir, some support spaces down through the center, some practice rooms on the side, scene shop in the inside, basically what's the existing band hall, and a costume shop up on the north side. This is a potential draft of what could happen. This is just a mass model, and we threw some color on it. Any kind of options are still available. And this part of package 3 is talking about anything that shows this red line would be resurfacing the existing wall. The walls that have the small mosaic tiles on them with new tiles to give it an updated look. Also in the breezeway area here in the main building, we replaced some of the flooring, and then a walkway that would come up here to the side to an area right outside the main office for a secured entry that would be developed right here that would have everybody forced in and then through and out, so they can't just come in through the front. Right now, when you come in the front door, once you're through the door, you got access to the whole space. And this is the entire campus shown diagrammatically with where all the mechanical units that would be replaced. And some of these are in pits underneath the building itself in 3 different places. And building T's got quite a few of them, and building A's got quite a few of the air handler units that are hanging from the underneath side of the structure. And those would be replaced also. There's also 2 of them up on top of the roof for the library. And then our alternates, the front curtain wall that's, as you enter the front door, go to the theater, that large window wall there would be replaced. Some of that aluminum is needed to be replaced, the connections, and then screening off the aviation. So putting new fence up there and putting some screening around it so they can still store things, and that back into the campus looks a little bit nicer. And it seems pretty quick, but that's, oops, and it kicked us out. That's nice. Let me see if I can get that started back up. There we go. So I guess with that, we open it up for questions.
Okay, great. So again, if you have a question, please, and you want to speak it out, raise your hand and we'll ask you to unmute. If you would rather type it up in the chat, we will read it out and get you an answer. So we do have somebody already with their hand up. So Jose Sologuren, if you can unmute.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm sorry, I'm driving, so that's the reason I cannot type the question. But we don't have any type of plans to update to code our shops and the building for automotive, because they are long waiting for those upgrades.
I guess the question is if we have any plans to upgrade the automotive shops to, did you say code?
Yes, sir.
To code. And The answer to that question is it's not included in the scope at this time. There's not been a discussion about upgrading those.
Okay. Dawn Pratt, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I can't tell by the plans because I guess I'm struggling to read it clearly. Will there be card entry points added to the back side of the cafeteria to help for security and entry for our ROTC people?
Yes, I don't know if you can see this image that's on screen right now, but those little red triangles would be indicating the doors. We're going to go through and find the key doors that we can put new hardware on the doors and new control access points so the teachers and whoever has card access can get into those doors. But yes, right there would be one not too far from ROTC.
Perfect. Thank you. I just couldn't read what I was looking at. I apologize. Thank you.
That's okay.
Okay, and then we have Linda Cross, whose hand is also raised.
Yes, I was wondering if this plan included anything for the visual arts department, since visual arts is considered a fine arts.
The answer to that is it's we've been defined to performing arts. So no.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm gonna take a question from the chat. Are we getting copies of this presentation? And I guess I can answer that. Yes, we'll post this presentation on the page for this project on the bond website, and you can find that if you go to our main website. There's a link there for Bond 2020, Bond 2015, and then all the projects will be in the Bond 2020. We'll get that up there soon. And will there be any updates or renovations to the dance classrooms?
The answer to that is the dance classrooms are staying right where they are. And so, no, there are not any updates to those in this plan.
Okay, thank you. And then Daniel Wood, you had your hand up.
Thank you. I have a few questions and concerns here. Number one, I think, did the voters not support adding sports facilities? Weren't those bond packages shot down? How are we adding a field house if the voters said no to sports facilities? So I mean, I know that's not going to be popular with Coach Coleman, but it's like, I thought that was what the voters said. And if we do it anyway, the voters are going to be mad and you're not going to get your bonds the next time. Sports facilities. And then one of the biggest concerns when we started this conversation in 2020, it was a walk that Dwayne Thompson took in August of 2020. I know the date well because I was supposed to be at that walk and I wasn't at that walk because I had to go home. But on that walk, the plumbing for all of the restrooms and the water, the drinking water, there's not enough water pressure. There's not enough. The restrooms need to all be addressed. They all smell like pee. You can only pee on the tiles and the grout for so long before you can't clean it anymore. So all of the bathrooms in the building and the plumbing should be addressed before we add a performing arts wing, before we add sports facilities, before we add anything. We need to take care of some basics because there's 4,300 kids that don't have clean drinking water and that have to piss in a restroom that smells like pee and urine at all times. All of the surfaces in the hallways look mismatched. The lockers need to be removed, covered up, retiled, painted, whatever. All the ceiling tiles are old and nasty. They need to be fixed. we're looking at $50 million estimated for this renovation. There's 4,300 kids at this school. Where's the equity for these kids? Is it because it's a minority school? 99% of the kids are minority. Does that mean that these kids don't deserve the same that the kids got at SOC? That's a minority school as well. They had probably closer to 100 million at SOC, and they have a fraction of the number of students here at Skyline. So why is Skyline seeing such a drastic reduction? Why are the auto things not being addressed? Why is the dance not being addressed? Why are all of the things that you just said weren't being addressed not being addressed when we should be addressing everything in this school like we did in other schools? I'll save another round for other people.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Chief Alfred, I saw that you had unmuted. Did you want to address some of that?
Oh, yeah, I was going to address the field house concern with Field and the Bond with the central facilities field houses. That was a separate proposition along with the natatoriums and the performing arts that failed, but we can do athletics additions to existing campuses. The other room, yeah, everything else, the architect, I mean, we're noting the concerns about the plumbing in the restrooms. We're also, I'll let architect comment about the lockers and ceiling tile and kind of tell them what we're doing down the corridors as well.
With all due respect, Mr. Alfred, that's where this conversation started. How did we get so far away from that to start with? That's how this conversation started. Plumbing, the bathrooms. Mr. Castle can tell you when 3 years ago, when we were interviewing the last principal, that the bathroom smelled bad then. So that was one of the first concerns that we had. How did we get away from that and do all of this facilities for the sports and all of that when we're not addressing the basics, safety, security? How many principals? 3 principals have had asked for fencing around the buildings, not around the perimeter of the school, but around the buildings to secure some of the entrances. To basically, I think, create more courtyards like you're going to create by the performing arts area. Like, we can do some of that kind of stuff. Like, how did we get so far away from that on this plan? It's like we've lost the vision and we went like completely to the other side without taking care of some of the basics. Skyline deserves to be whole. It doesn't deserve to be a mismatch patch job like it's been for how many years. This school was the #1 first magnet in the country, and we're treated like a stepchild, and we're continuing to be treated like a stepchild when we do just a little bit here and a little bit there. It deserves more. I don't have any children going to this school. I don't have any interest. I don't go to the school. The kids in the facility, the teachers deserve a break room that doesn't smell like pee. They deserve to go in a restroom and not smell like pee. It's disgusting. Every time you go in there, it's disgusting. No matter how much they clean them, it's just disgusting. And for us not to address that in this presentation is disrespectful and completely wrong. Thank you. Sorry.
Well, thank you for your comments and your input. And Mr. Klein, is there anything that you want to address at this time?
Oh, is one of the things, I'm sorry, I was just checking to make sure my mic was on. One of the things that we are doing that was brought up was as we're redoing the corridors, it's used with new tile work, we are taking out lockers, not every locker, but a majority of the lockers we're taking out and replacing where the locker was with tile, and redoing the floors. The floors in the corridors were just replaced a couple of years ago in most of these corridors. There is some mismatched right here in the center that we do agree that got left as it was because of budgets. And so that's getting addressed. And that's it.
Great. So a couple other questions that we have in the chat. Will there be any updates or renovations to the dance classrooms? And if you could maybe review which renovations will start first, kind of the timeline. There's a couple questions about that.
Okay. Well, the two dance classrooms are over here in building C right now. And like I said, they are not in the program to be replaced. They were installed, the new dance floors were installed a couple of years ago, it seems like. And then as far as schedule, as what's the phasing of this, let me see if I can get back to this. The kind of the logical thing to do would be to build new portions of the building so that we can evacuate. For example, right here, if we build this new building and then move everything that's here out, then that leaves these spaces open to get overhauled. Then the HVAC work is going to have to happen in summers and nights, and it's spread around the campus. So the push is to get the big pieces of equipment, which will have to happen in the summer, because there's a pit right here. Missed where all my pits are here. It's a pit there, and this is a pretty big one on the side of MB3, and a pit up here. Those will definitely have to be replaced over summer. This area right here, when this new building gets added, these would be replaced as part of this renovation. These would have to be over a summer or nights. The areas in gray have already been converted from pneumatics to DDC controls, which is the goal, is to get these all in DDC controls.
Okay, thank you. Sandy Wilson, if you have a question, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yes, thank you. Daniel and I were on the 2020 bond committee, and I was on the 2020 bond committee for Skyline on the athletics. And we wanted a complex at Skyline, plus with, a total of 5 schools. At one time, we were at all schools, but then DISD came back and said, hey, pick out 5 schools. So Skyline was one of them. Well, on the bond, it had to be separated, and it got shot down. So where is this money coming from to build the new athletic department? Okay, number one. Number two is in room 107, right when you walk into the school, down the hall in 107, they got water spots, rotten walls in there that I don't see that's going to be addressed at all. I'm sure there's some mold in there.
That in the counseling?
I'm really concerned is where's this money coming from to build the athletic center, which I've been trying to get for years and years and years. And then this past 2020 bond was shot down by the athletics. So where's this money coming from all of a sudden? And I totally agree with Daniel on what he's saying is, the bathrooms are just absolutely horrible. The plumbing is 50 years old. I'm from the very first class of Skyline, and they still got stuff there that we saw back when we first went into this school. So where's this money coming from to build a new athletic facility?
Mr. Klein is, or if there's an answer, if not, we'll.
Let's say I can't answer the question on where money's coming from. My part of this project is to assess what this building compares against the ed specs and come up with a plan. The restrooms, a lot of these restrooms were in fact, 50 of them were renovated when we first came on the campus. But it's been, and Sandy, you probably remember this, it was probably 12 years ago when that was done. But there are some older ones outside of that. You're right.
Okay.
And Sandy, is 107, is that as you come in the front door on the right-hand side of the?
Yeah, it's on the right-hand side where that office is at.
Yes.
And then you go on down on the left-hand side is the attendants in the principal's office. But
Right.
I've been in there before, and the walls are all just about rotted out.
The walls with the paneling on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are taking notes on all of this. So if we'll definitely look at, like Chief Alfred said, we're taking notes of all of this, and we'll talk about it some more as the work progresses.
And one other question I have before I'm getting off is on the security. Are there cameras going to be installed in each of the entrances where people can go in and then come out? Are there going to be cameras there, or what's going to be there where anybody can walk inside the school? So are there going to be cameras there, or what?
Well, we've talked about the access cards and those kind of security measures to lock the doors down. We can have a conversation with, it's usually a different group that does the cameras. We put the conduits in, and then they put the cameras in after we've been there. So we'll ask the question about cameras.
Actually, Ms. Alexander, Ms. West has had her hand raised as well. If maybe if she can, maybe she has a comment, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, actually, thank you. I actually have a question about the HVAC upgrade. So I know that recently we were informed that there was some grant money that was going to pay for, if I'm not mistaken, so some HVAC work. So is this in addition to that grant money that we were just notified of, or how does that work?
This HVAC equipment is that grant money. This is the grant money package right here.
Okay.
So it's just offsetting some of the cost.
And Ms. Alexander, it's your turn now.
Hello, everybody. I'm Minister Dominique Alexander, president of the Next Generation Action Network. I was invited to be on this call with my fellow bond committee person, Daniel Woods. And I just wanted to say real quick, just to give people an understanding of the content, because I'm gonna get Daniel Woods later about this or whatever. As a person who led the fight at Sappho Cliff High School, it's imperative that we understand that at all equity. And that's the reason why I serve on this bond board, to make sure that every school gets what's equitable to theirs. And I know historically that schools have not gotten equitable resources and, of course, shabby jobs over the years. And I'm so grateful for the work that Chief Alfred has been doing since coming on Dallas ISD, because the work has been revolutionary. But I do have some concerns in regards to Skyline, because, of course, even when we started our fight in 2015, there was a lot of concerns around Skyline, and I've just saw these concerns kind of get kicked down the road continuously or whatever and stuff like that. And I know that we need to do all we can to make sure that our largest high school in Dallas ISD is it is that model, and making sure that it represents that model of a $3.5 billion bond. I know that a lot of people, and just for my fellow community people, I know a lot of people keep asking about the athletic complex. I know that Chief Alfred just said it. That was a separate issue that was related to upgrades that would have went to Forster or Pleasant Grove Stadium or Jesse Owens, or new possibilities of stadiums towards the only thing that got approved was the 3.5. That has nothing to do with the individual allocations or advancements at individual schools or whatever. That the Dallas ISD still have controls about what they want to build at the actual schools. The individual competition gyms or whatever complex at the schools is not the item that was actually struck down with our central athletic complex. That's pretty much the best way to say it. I wanted to ask, what was the square footage of this school? What was, Mr. Klein, what was your allocation of your scope? What is the current enrollment? What was the last allocation? And what is the allocation of money towards the grant resources? So I go for the square footage of the school, the allocation of the scope, the current enrollment, what is the last allocation towards the school and bond money used, and what is the scope of the money towards the grants that Principal West just talked about with the HVAC? What is that amount?
Okay. The overall school is 650,000 square feet. And, and we're talking about adding basically 37,000 square feet in the athletics and 13,000 square feet in performing arts. And I don't know, some of these other questions somebody else may have to answer, but
what's the scope of your work that you're doing?
Our scope?
Well, I'll jump in here.
Okay.
We're trying to, the purpose of this meeting is to kind of validate the scope to contract Mr. Klein for. We're trying to make sure we have the right scope. He's going to provide us an estimate based on that, and then we'll be able to have him design it. Right now in the bond, when we look at the bond website, it was 10 million was dedicated to just Skyline. We know the work that's needed here is far beyond 10 million. So we're coming up with a strategy to fund this project through multiple sources. One being, which you guys have been referring to as that grant, is actually the ESSER funds for HVAC. It was something provided by the state. That funding, we're approximating that's about 12 or 13 million. That'll help us offset some other costs so we can build some of that nice interior space and do some of these additions. So that kind of goes into what Mr. Sandy was questioning about earlier about where's the money coming from. It's these multiple sources, ESSER for HVAC, and even the safety and security part of the bond. We can use that to leverage and help improve Skyline even more so we can maximize our bond dollars.
The current enrollment and what was the last allocation at the school? The last bond work that was done there?
I'd have to research that, but I do know, Mr. Klein, you were part of that project. Do you recall that number?
I believe that was 15 million.
15, okay.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, it was between 20 and 25, if I'm not mistaken, from the bond that was just completed about 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, so let us look that up. I have to go through our records and find that number.
Yeah, and we're roughly at just under 4,300 students.
4,300, okay.
Thank
That's
you.
all. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose Angel Cordero, you've had your hand up if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yes, I think it was Mr. Klein mentioned that for the A2, for the A building renovation, the athletic room is going to return to classroom. He mentioned early college. So does that mean the rooms have to be allocated to early college, or will Skyline have flexibility to assign those rooms to other departments, like to our other departments?
No, those could be assigned to anything, these new spaces. Early college is on the other side of the hall, or the other side of the building from that. It's just one of the key things is right now, anybody that's in A2 that needs to use the restroom has to go into the early college part of the building to go to the bathrooms. And so that's one of the reasons we're adding a new set of toilets in there.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear if the money was tied that it had to go to early college.
No. It's just a functionality type thing. where we put it. So.
Thank you.
And we have a comment, not so much a question, but in the chat, what Skyline needs is a fence around the whole campus. Is that something that you can address, Mr. Klein?
Yeah, that person doesn't obviously live in the neighborhood.
If
It's
Mr. Klein can maybe address that?
Yeah, it's if you haven't never been there, it's a big campus. And so I was Mr. Woods that said, talked about fencing that may cordon off areas so that there's more security around it. It's probably a more reasonable solution for this campus than trying to put a fence clear around the entire campus. We're talking better part of a mile of fencing if we did that. And if you've ever watched the start of school and the end of school, everybody exits from every door and goes every direction to get to vehicles all the way around four sides. So.
And a sculpture garden outside the Arts Center spotlighting alumni would be nice.
Okay.
So just as a, if you have some extra money. And another question in the chat that I apologize I missed. Any consideration for updates to classroom F25 or at least modernize?
Okay, have to go. I'm assuming that's in building F, but other than that, I'd have to go look up which one was 25 in there. There's quite
Those are the construction classrooms.
okay. So
Pardon my interruption. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So there's once again the only upgrades that are going on in F right now for this plans are the HVAC units that are being replaced in the controls for the HVAC.
Okay. And Grady Hill, you have your hand up.
Yes, my question is, as far as I'm kind of new to this in regards to the bond. So how were these decisions made? I'm assistant principal and I'm over the performing arts, visual arts as well. I'm also over automotive. So I guess my concern is that we have a performing arts center. There's renovations to the band choir, which is nice, but the dance will not be part of that center. They're not moving. Or am I reading that correctly?
That is correct. Well, we looked at the existing campus. We were asked to look at the existing campus and compare it against the educational specifications and see what measured up to what, and in regards to the performing arts and the athletics facilities. And I know anyway. So there's deficiencies were identified in the areas of the size of the band hall and the choir and the orchestra, and then of course the scene shops clear over here, and they're dragging the scenes around to get to the stage. So, and at one point we talked about leaving band where it was, and as we got to playing around with this existing building and looking at the number of columns that are in the way of what we need to do inside that existing building to expand band and get their instruments out of that. Because right now your band hall also houses all the instruments are inside the band hall itself, instead of being in a storage room opposite or adjacent to that band hall. So anyway, the use of that space was identified as a good use for possible rigging up scenes and painting scenes and doing some of that work. And it's typically those spaces are right across the hall. Dance was just, the two spaces had been upgraded in the last maybe around 5 years is my guess. They're fairly new floors right now. And so it was opted to leave those over there. So, and dance goes multiple different places. Sometimes you see it out towards the gymnasiums too.
Okay, so,
Oh, that's the answer.
okay, so I guess one more question. So this is the finalized plan. There won't be any alterations or any changes to this plan?
Oh, these are real preliminary plans at this point. We're trying to identify the scope to get it pinned down. The original scope, as we said, was just these items. So everything else outside this page right here was all requested to be added to the package.
Okay, so if there are some changes that we would like to suggest, what is that process?
Well,
I'm sorry.
that's part of this process right now.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, I am in favor of dance being moved to part of the performing arts sector. So that is my idea. And then also some type of renovations. There is one classroom, although it does have new floors, but it was I want to say it was a construction room, or it was a regular classroom. So that like the term renovation is not necessarily accurate for one of them.
Okay.
And then the automotive as well also needs to be renovated as well. It's pretty old as well, as far as our like automotive repair shop. But that's my thoughts on that. Thank you.
Okay.
And also, we're going to download the chat. So if there are any suggestions or changes or anything like that, you can put them in the chat so we can provide that as well. So that's another way to get the information to us. And Tammy Greer, if you have a question, if you want to unmute.
Okay, I'm not Tammy. I'm just with her. I'm Shanae Taylor. I was asking about some of those classrooms that you're making in A building. There's no robotics room, and we have 10 robotics teams. And we also host the two robotics competition for the entire district. It would be great to have like one of the rooms be dedicated, because we have to share with aviation. I'm pretty sure they would love their room back, but there's no dedicated STEM space.
So Ms. Taylor, I hate to cut you off, but that would be a campus decision. So we can have that conversation later. Yeah. So construction doesn't determine, what those rooms will be designated for. So that's administrative, but definitely that'll be taken into consideration, and we'll talk about it later.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're fine. Thank you.
And William Robinson.
Yes, how's everybody doing this evening? I want to appreciate the bond committee, the work you guys are doing, campus leadership, Principal West, athletic coordinator Coleman, Coach Robinson here, head baseball coach. It's my 7th year as a head baseball coach at Skyline, and it's my 9th year overall. And I just had a question about the field house. If we could go back to the plans, Mr. Klein, the field house plans, where you kind of had it where each sport would be.
Right here?
Yes, sir. So just looking at that, I'm not sure if you were aware, Skyline Baseball has never had a place to dress. It's never had a locker room. I can't find an alumni that dressed in a locker room. We've always dressed outside in the parking lot or in the dugout. So obviously we're very excited about this addition, but I don't see any space in there for baseball.
It's right here. It's the existing, we're talking about doing the existing weight room, because the weight room needs to expand. And we would put the baseball and softball off of a corridor that's on this end, so you're the closest you can be to that baseball stadium or the baseball field. So you could leave right here and walk around the corner and you're there.
Okay, is that where it says boys and girls, is that the existing weight room?
That's the existing basketball locker rooms.
Okay,
The weight
all
room
right,
is this
so
space right here.
that entire green space is the weight room, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Actually, we're showing an
so
expansion off the end of that building.
so the entire purple area is baseball, softball, and soccer.
Correct. And we're in the process of trying to, real preliminary lay those things out. And we got a request in right now to meet with the staff so that we can start having discussions about the proximity of what needs to be next to what and push things around. We'd love to be able to go out this way, except for the main power for the entire campus feeds right through here. And it's going to be a little expensive to move that.
Okay, is there any, because I guess I'm having a hard time seeing, like, is there, because it looked like it's on top of the existing weight room, is there an idea of how much square footage that's going to be?
I just have to, I think the ideal thing is to sit down and show you the drawings of how it would lay out.
Okay. Right, I mean, you kind of get my concern or like questioning,
Yes,
because
I
the
understand
purple is
your-
on top
yeah.
of the existing weight room. Right,
And
right. So
actually,
that doesn't look like an expansion, like the way it's, where it's showing on the screen.
Okay. Yeah, I would have to show you more, but and the comparison of the existing facilities to the educational specifications showed up the lack of facilities out here for the size of this campus. One of the things that we've known about for some time is the football team comes out this door and comes down some extremely steep set of stairs to come out and go around to the football field, and it's things like that we're trying to find ways to cure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. And we have Ava Grimm, who also has a hand up.
Hey, so yeah, my question's about the theater shop space and the costume shop space. Mainly, I want to, I guess, ensure that there will be cabinets and countertops that we can use to put shop equipment. I'm assuming you're not providing shop equipment. It's mostly going to be architectural work that you're doing.
Correct. It's mostly
also,
yeah. But we work with the district for the equipment that got put in place.
okay. So I would be looking for a sink. Is there going to be plumbing available for things like
Yeah, that would be part of the program too, would be getting new plumbing fixtures. I mean, in all these, the facilities we renovate, we got to bring it up to the educational specifications and where they need sinks and where you don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know I can't remember in the existing choir and band areas. I don't know if they have big double doors, but I need to be able to move scenery.
Right.
If we're going to do this, then yeah, I'd love to be able to build large pieces of scenery in that shop and then move it onto the stage. And I think we're going to have to address some of the doors.
Yes, I agree with you on that. They have to be some big doors.
Yeah. But other than that, I'm super excited.
Well, thank you. And Miss Daniel Wood, I don't know if your hand was raised from before, you raised it again, but.
Oh, no, I raised it again.
Oh, okay, well, go for it.
So round two, we never finished the projects from the last bond project. The parking lots were all supposed to be redone. The outside of the building was supposed to be redone. So that was never done. And I don't see that on this scope. The windows are broken. There's windows that need to be replaced. There's ceiling tiles. You talked about the walls and the floors. Ceiling tiles need to be replaced throughout the building and the corridors. the HVAC system was supposed to be done in the last bond project as well. And then lighting, when we add all this new lighting, I hope that you are considering not doing it with conduit, because conduit is an afterthought, and I don't like to see conduit running on the exterior of this building. I've been serving on this bond task force for several years now, and every presentation that we've been seeing, it's been a wow factor. I'm sitting here thinking, what the hell factor here? This school is supposed to be a showplace of DISD, and y'all are barely scraping the edge. You're adding a brand new field house when the classrooms are asking for, to be cleaned up. You're asking, the automotive probably hasn't been cleaned in 50 years that the building has been there. And we can't even do basics before we're adding more sports. That's insulting to every one of those kids that don't participate in sports, for one. And don't get me wrong, I want them to have the sports as well, but we need to pony up, and we need to do it, and we need to do it right. And adding, like, if you looked at the exterior of the Skyline High School right now, it's like all brick except for the new gymnasium that they added. It's all white brick, or all white. And then you add a patch of wood grain on one section. Unless you're going to like coordinate that around the entire school, why are you going to add wood grain and something that isn't going to coordinate with the rest of the school? It's going to look out of place. It's going to look, it's not. Why do we always have to be an afterthought at this school? It's patchy work. The last bond project was patchy work. This bond project seems like it's going to be patchy work. Why can't we actually have work that is going to turn this school back into the showplace that it was? There's 4,300 kids, and I asked Dominique Alexander, who's an organizer, to help, because he helped them walk out at SOC, and we got 4,300 kids that will get to walk out over here. This school, these kids, these teachers deserve more than what you're trying to give them. They deserve more, and the community deserves more. We've been looking at a rundown school for years, and it's time to step up and do it right. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. It is almost to the hour, and I wanted to see Ms. West, if you wanted to say a few words. Ms. West, if you have a few words that you wanted to say before we wrap up.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, I want to thank all of you for being here. So I feel the passion that you all have for Skyline, and I want you to know I share that passion. I wasn't here, I wasn't there years ago when these conversations started, but again, thank you for that. And I'm hoping that there'll be more conversations. Again, we're in the, kind of the conversational, the planning phase. So we'll be having conversations, meeting with our construction team, and really talking about maybe some things that, after hearing your concerns, and after hearing, things that were scheduled to be done, years ago, and hearing the severity of some of these things, I think that there are things that need to be considered. And so again, I thank you for bringing, that information to the forefront. And again, thank you for being compassionate. But just know that, we're going to work together, and we're going to do all that we can. And I just want to thank the construction team for, coming up with the plan, with the information that you have. And I just hope that there's an opportunity for us to provide feedback. And I don't know where additional money comes from, but I'm hoping that, somewhere along the way that we'll find some additional funding to better Skyline. So, I agree, Mr. Wood. I look at some of the other schools, and I look at these major facelifts, right? Like Roosevelt, and, that was showcased all over the district's website. in South Oak Cliff, and we're talking about some major changes. And I get it. Skyline is huge. It's huge. So compared to those schools, the work that we're talking about, may not. I mean, I get it, in terms of being scaled out. I get it. But again, I'm just hoping that these conversations will continue and we'll really prioritize and look at the things that we really need to focus on and make some adjustments. So I really appreciate everyone for being on this call. Thank you.
And thank you. And Chief Alfred, if you want to just say a few words to take us out.
No, I'd like to echo Ms. West. I mean, I really appreciate the feedback we received today. That's the whole purpose of these meetings, I mean, we want to partner with you guys. We want to hear from you to make this project better. You guys who've been around for a while know that, the bond used to come in, we just did whatever we did, and we left and came back for the next bond. In this one, we're approaching it different in true partnership, and we do hear you. So let us get with the team, circle back around, and we're gonna come back and present to you guys again, and we're gonna get this right, and we're gonna come up with a strategy so we can move this project forward. Mr. Alexander.
Oh, yes, Mr. Brent. I don't want you to have no problems. Marie, I don't want you to have problems, but I know one of our elders in our community keeps on wanting to say something, and I don't want this meeting to go without being able to allow Miss Ola Allen the opportunity to be able to say whatever she got to say, because I don't want her to come protest to you tomorrow at your office, okay?
Oh,
Right.
I'm sorry. I didn't see her raising. I didn't see her raising her hand, or I
She
would
been
have
trying to unmute
definitely.
several times, so I don't want you to have no problems.
Yeah, no. Well, yes, I'm so sorry. Yeah, if we raised a hand or put it in the chat, just unmuting. I'm not sure if it's a mistake or you're wanting to speak, so that's why we ask people to raise their hands. But thank you for advocating for her. We appreciate it. So, Miss Allen.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Now we can.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Mrs. West, thank you so much too. I'm hoping that the next round that you guys will give everybody an opportunity to have some comments to make. This meeting has been really, Daniel has taken up all of the time, and I think this is very unfair because I'm here and there were some comments I like to put in, and that times is out. So Ms. West, I'm hoping that our next meeting that we will have time on comments so everybody will get an opportunity to input, because there are some inputs that I really wanted to talk about. When Mr. Bates came out to Skyline and walked with Mr. Simmons, and we talked about things that we were going to do. Now that hasn't been brought up, but I will say what I have for the next time. I'm hoping that the next time will be divided equally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. And definitely, even before that, we can talk, you and I meet, on a regular basis and kind of get some of your questions or concerns. And I'll make sure that we get that information to the construction team. But I'll make sure that your information gets passed along. Okay?
Well, the only thing about, if you remember, we have already talked about this, and I thought this would be the place for someone to explain it, because you didn't really know what had happened to the extra money and you didn't know about the walkthrough. So I thought at this meeting, I thought maybe Mr. Khan would be able to kind of explain this. This is one of the reasons I tune in, because you and I have already talked about this, and you weren't able to really justify or make comments because you knew nothing about it. And this is why I thought this would be a good time, but that's okay. Good things come to those who wait, so I will wait.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So, Chief Alfred, if you want to close out.
Again. No, that was it. Like I said, great conversation. We'll work through Ms. West. Again, she did a great job of putting the word out along with Mary Corman and get the word out to the community so we can, present to you guys again. So with that, we'll say good night, and we will follow up with you via email through Ms. West. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.